It's really pleasing to see the UAE government has finally provided proof of life that's been called upon by the United Nations, the media, and various political figures as well. So it's been a long time waiting to appease the public and show that Latifa is not locked up in a dungeon anymore. In fact, my sources say that she's been out shopping, she's been with friends, she's attended family gatherings, and is potentially reintegrating into public life in Dubai. So that's a very positive sign, and we hope that that continues. We expect that there will be more photos released imminently and probably over the next months, and I think it will continue. I think the public is skeptical of whether she's safe or not right now, that these photos are staged. Obviously in 2018 there were some other staged photos with Mary Robinson, who's since apologized for having done it. So the women in the photos with Latifa are coming under some criticism for being in a photo with Latifa, but sources say that she is cooperating with the Dubai government and she is getting her freedoms back, and that's probably something that she will be grateful for at this time. So we should fully support the endeavours of the UAE government to continue to show that she's alive, well, and enjoying as much freedom as she can at this point. The United Nations investigation, we started in March 2018, actually, with a barrister named Toby Cadman. So this investigation has been ongoing for several years now. We've attended Geneva, we've given evidence, and anything that we've developed along the way, any theories, any information or intelligence has gone straight to the United Nations, and they've been on this case from the very beginning. Well, it's because of the campaign behind the United Nations application. Had it not been for such intense media coverage and public support for Latifa's freedom, it's unlikely that these bodies would follow through the cases with such passion. They would be swept under the rug. And this is the same in many of the cases we deal with. So it is important when you're facing human rights violations and torture, as we are in another case that we're dealing with at the moment. It's very important that the world knows about it, that the spotlight is on it. And that was what we did in 2018 when the Nostromo was attacked. When Latifa called and said she heard gunshots and she was suddenly whisked away to the United Arab Emirates with Hervé Joubert, of course, the first thing we did is we had to get this to public attention to ensure their safety. Initially, the media was not even interested in covering it. They didn't think it was an interesting story back then. And of course, it's gained so much traction, and we've worked so hard to bring it to the kind of level where Sheikh Mohammed does have to actually respond to requests for proof of life, that he does have to ensure that Latifa has a good life. Now, what this doesn't do, though, is take away the fact that a US yacht was attacked in international waters. Latifa was kidnapped from international waters, and Hervé Joubert, an American citizen, was also taken to the UAE. He was kidnapped, he was held for 2 weeks. Now, this is a serious international crime, and a couple of photos of Latifa should not distract us from that serious criminality, that lawlessness and that belligerence that's come from the UAE that has escalated, and they seem to have so far really got away with it with just a few photos. So it's very important that we continue to explore and investigate what can be done to ensure that the UAE is held accountable for that act, for kidnapping a US citizen, attacking a US yacht in international waters. The United States should take a serious interest in that violation. For if they don't, that kind of action is going to happen again, and perhaps we're going to end up with Khashoggi-style incidences. If we turn a blind eye to lawlessness and criminality coming from our allies and then give them the green light to commit these criminal acts, they're only going to increase, they're only going to be emboldened to act further against us. This becomes a security threat for the United States, for the United Kingdom. And it's important, absolutely, that we stay on top of that. These photos of Latifa, they're very good. It's nice to see that she's alive and well. However, she was taken from international waters, from a US yacht, and that crime has not been punished. Now, the investigation into Sheikha Shamsa is equally as important. Now, nothing has actually happened yet to the point where anyone would actually be held accountable for this crime. And that is the issue. You have a kidnapping from British soil. We have a kidnapping from a US yacht in international waters. Now, what's actually being done by both countries, the United States and the United Kingdom, to make the UAE accountable? They need to enforce these international laws against the UAE. But they haven't. Hervé Gilbert, he has not been compensated. Sheikha Shamsa and Sheikha Latifa should be returned to the original point where they were taken from, because they never should have been taken. Latifa did escape the UAE. She made it out. She left the UAE, citing human rights abuses and torture. She made it safely to international waters, and there isn't a time where they should ever feel at risk that a country like India, like the UAE, is going to attack that yacht. And equally, Sheikha Shamsa should have known that when she was in the United Kingdom and she ran away from her father, or she went to live with a friend, that she had every right to do that under British law. And it's the same with the yacht, under US flagged yacht, under American law, essentially in international waters. Hervé Gilbert and Latifa should have felt safe that they are not going to be attacked. Because if they're not safe, and if Sheikha Shamsa is not safe in Britain, on British soil, then who is safe? Nobody is safe, because the UAE will continue to do these acts, to commit these crimes against people, whether it's hacking, whether it's money laundering, whether it's human trafficking, Iran sanction violations, various surveillance operations against British and American citizens, and including ourselves. These are the kind of criminal acts that the UAE will continue and probably escalate, because they have got away with so much. Where are the sanctions? Where is the US demanding that the UAE be accountable for that act against a US yacht, and even compensate the victims? The United Nations called for the release of Latifa, and the release that is out of the country of the UAE, not just her freedom within Dubai. So they haven't adhered to what really the public want. And the fact is, Latifa should never have been taken from that US flagged yacht. That was almost an act of war and an act of terrorism. It's unacceptable that Indian forces were used by the UAE to attack, to assault, violently assault the passengers on board that yacht and kidnap them. Now, what is the United Kingdom doing about Sheikha Shamsa? What is the United States doing about this attack on a US flagged yacht? And where are the compensation for the victims and the successful outcome? Again, these photos are a step in the right direction, but there absolutely needs to be more. We have one prisoner in Dubai at the moment called Albert Douglas, and he's been complaining about human rights violations and torture against him within the prison system. We've had people die in police custody in Dubai. We've had all sorts of human rights violations and torture cases and complaints of severe assaults on foreign nationals. And of course, the United Kingdom needs to take that seriously when we have a British citizen in prison right now complaining about torture. If they don't take that seriously, and they don't take the Sheikha Shamsa kidnapping seriously, and the US doesn't take the attack on a US yacht seriously, then of course these behaviours are going to escalate, and they put us at risk. They put our national security at risk, and they put our citizens at risk. And I think that anyone who goes to the United Arab Emirates should be warned of the genuine possibility that they could be tortured in the event that they are arrested, whether or not they've committed a crime. These are the kind of things that the US and UK absolutely need to do, and it's something we've been lobbying for many years, and especially after this attack on a US yacht.